hurts. Ow. Ow. You're a meanie. You're a meanie. The channel. I am Crafting Journey, and you are watching Crafting and Crime Daily, the show where I recap live trials while I do some crafting. Today I am crocheting. This is going to be a hooded scarf, hooded scarf for a really dear friend of mine who's going through chemotherapy up in Alaska, and I love her to death. First of all, she's cold just by virtue of where she's living, and second of all, because chemotherapy makes you cold. Yeah. I mean, you get chills and you're not feeling well, and she needs comfort. And this is like me wrapping her in love, because I can't go there. I would love to go there. I'm using, I put that on my diamond painting. I'm using Bernay yarn. What's the name of it here? Hold on, I have it. Hold on. Don't go anywhere. Bernay Pop. And the color is Violet Vision. It's a 4-weight yarn, and I believe I bought this on, I want to say Hirschner's, but I could be wrong. Yeah. And this is put out by Yarn Inspirations. So let's talk about, first of all, a couple of things to cover: the Mark Jensen retrial and the Alex Murdaugh case. So I'm going to talk about both of those today, so don't go anywhere. We're going to get to everything. You're not going to miss a thing on my channel. So the Mark Jensen retrial, they completed the case. The defense rested. The prosecution had no rebuttal, and they did their closings yesterday. I did the closing arguments live if you'd like to listen to. Part 1 is the prosecutor closing and the defense closing, and part 2 is the prosecution's rebuttal and the instructions to the jury. They began deliberations last night around 2:30, and at 4 p.m. they came back with questions. One of the things they wanted was tape, a flip chart, some markers. They wanted to see the autopsy photos, which are on a disk drive, a thumb drive. And because there's a lot of other things on that thumb drive, the judge was not comfortable with sending the thumb drive back there. And they agreed that they would have the jury come out and view the autopsy photos in open court. The other things that they wanted were to see the report from the EMTs. Now, that entire report had not been entered into evidence, so they just gave them the page that had been entered into evidence. And so at that point, by the time they got the jury, they just, they had all this back and forth discussion about what they were going to give the jury and how they were going to do it. It was 4:30. So the judge brings the jury back and tells them what he's going to do in response to their questions, and says, I love this judge. He's really quite humorous, but he says, according to my iPhone or whatever it was, he says, it's going to be dark at 5:03 and it's already 4:30, and I'm going to let you guys go home at, why don't you just leave at 5 o'clock so nobody's going home in the dark. So you can deliberate till 5 and then go ahead and go home. Come back tomorrow at 8:30. Then he proceeded to show the autopsy photos and then send back the rest of the evidence that they had asked for, the things that they had asked for, into the jury room. So they adjourned at 5 o'clock. At 8:30 this morning, deliberations have resumed, and I am watching it on my iPhone. There is a verdict watch thumbnail that I have posted. If they have a verdict, I will go live today to watch the verdict with you. So I hope I don't miss it. Usually they announce it ahead of time. They did come back this morning already, about an hour, about 9:30. They started at 8:30, about 9:30 they came back With another question, they wanted the police reports. So they had to be told that the police reports are not evidence, because there's a lot of hearsay in a police report, that they had to rely on their memories regarding the testimony with respect to what's in the police reports. I need coffee. Coffee in my... Oh, by the way, the woman that I'm doing this hooded scarf for gave me this cup. It's pink. No. Yeah, I know I've pointed it out before, but I just love it. Okay. So that's where we are with the Mark Jensen retrial. On my community page, check that out. I have a poll. Let me know what you think. Guilty, not guilty, or is this going to be a hung jury? Oh my God. Can you imagine if it's a hung jury, they would have to do this trial again. Yeah. Assuming the state wants to pursue it, continue to pursue it. It's got to be so expensive. Right. Let's go on to the elephant in the room. Yes, the trial of Alex Murdaugh for the murder of his wife and son, Maggie and Paul Murdaugh, on the 1,700 plus acre Moselle hunting farm, which I'm going to show you like an overhead of the kennel where the bodies were found, outside the kennels. That's just kind of an overhead view. And I also wanted to show you a mock-up of where the bodies were found. It's not to scale, but it'll kind of give you an idea. You know, Paul was coming out of a feed room, so you see his body there. These are just drawings. Don't worry, you're not going to see any footage. Nobody's seen footage. And then 30 feet away, kind of around the corner of the kennel, is Maggie's body. So I thought you might enjoy, or, you know, be curious to see that photograph. So we started the day yesterday with cross-examination of an investigator for South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. Now, he was present during the second interview that I talked about yesterday, and we're going to get to the alleged confession. All right, let me crochet, or I'm never going to get this thing done. All right, yeah. So this, the attorney was not Dick Harpootlian, it was his partner Jim, and I don't know what Jim's last name is, but he is really making the case for a sloppy investigation of this case. The whole defense is making this case, and they spent a lot of time talking about the guns that were found. All of these guns found in the home, and a lot of the shell cases, or the shells that would go in these guns, were not the guns used in the deaths of Maggie and Paul. So I don't know why we spent so much time talking about these guns. They weren't the murder weapons. The state doesn't have the murder weapons. They've never found the 12-gauge shotgun or the 300 blackout rifle that they think killed Paul or Maggie. Yeah, Paul was the shotgun, the rifle. Paul was the 12-gauge. Maggie was the 300 blackout, they think. But they've never found these weapons. So they're spending all this time talking about weapons and guns and, you know, lead bullets versus steel bullets. I'm not a gun person, so it just did not interest me at all. I'd be sitting on the jury going, I don't know what the hell they're talking about, but yeah, okay. But I'm not from South Carolina. They've got a jury of their peers sitting there, and okay, they probably understand it all. All right. Then this guy made a big deal out of, as he should, you know, part of Alex's alibi is that he left after he woke up from his nap and texted his wife, and she didn't respond. He goes to visit his mother in Alameda, and the investigators do not search that home until September. This is in June, July, August. Almost 4 months later, they search the home where Alex said he went right after the murders. I mean, what? And then when they do, they find that blue raincoat or something that is on the inside had gunshot residue. But I mean, Alex had all kinds of time where, you know, He could have destroyed evidence, but they don't bother to search. So he makes the big deal. Did you go to the, did you not search that house? Why didn't you search that house? If Alex was your only suspect, which he admitted he was the only suspect. Yeah, he was the only suspect, and no, he says, I didn't search it. I don't know what everybody else did. Nobody searched this place until September. So then they talked about a berm at this place where they would target practice. It's a big mound of dirt. No one he didn't dig anything out of the berm. They didn't test any of the bullets in the berm to see if they matched the murder weapon. That was never done. And then they talk about the interview that occurred on the 10th, the second interview, the one that I talked about yesterday. They when they went out, they told Alex they were coming, but they didn't say the cavalry is coming. They sent out 4 police cars, 6+ individuals. Their plan was to have 2 individuals in each police car interviewing people at the same time. So 2 people to interview Paul, 2 people to interview Buster, Paul's brother, 2 people to interview John Marvin, Paul's uncle, Alex's brother, and 2 people to interview Alex, and then another person to do the cell phone extraction. They just swooped in on Alex, and he was at John Marvin's house, a hunting lodge, I should say. I don't have a hunting lodge. Maybe because I don't hunt. Okay. And their buckle swaths were taken from Alex, and probably, this investigator said, probably Buster as well, but he doesn't think John Marvin, they did a buckle swab. That's where they take, the buckle is like the inside of your cheek, and they take a swab and they swab it so they can get your DNA. They have a known sample of DNA to match it to any DNA they might find on any other evidence or at the crime scene. Then there's a huge discussion about which phrase Alex said. Did he say, I did him so bad, or they did him so bad? I want you to hear the exchange between the defense attorney and the investigator, and listen for yourself. And then when it's done, pause this video, and I want you to leave a comment and let me know, what did you hear?
Saw a traumatic picture, and I know it's not hard, or not easy. I know it's hard. And sitting here talking today is tough. It's just so bad. They did it so bad.
When you asked the defendant about the traumatic picture that he saw of Paul and Maggie, what did he say?
It's just so bad. I did him so bad.
I'm going to tell you, I heard at full speed, I heard I. When they slowed it down to 1/3 speed, I heard they. So, but the defense attorney made a huge big deal about the fact that he didn't even write this down in his notes. He took a mental note of Alex saying this, and that they would get to that later on. He didn't even ask him any questions like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Would you say that? Nope, didn't ask him any of those. No, this was just an information gathering interview, if you want to call it an interview. It was just information gathering, and we did conduct another interview later on. I'm curious if they do ask him about that in the next interview that we happen to see. Like, what? Why did you say that, Alex? He's probably not going to remember that he even said it, because, he was crying and blubbering when he said it. Yeah. And of course he's going to say, no, they, or I, meaning I failed him, not that I murdered him, but that I failed him. I don't know. Could mean a lot of things, but let me know what you hear. So then we talk about the finding of Maggie's phone. Maggie's phone was found thrown away on the side of the road, and it was found using Find My iPhone. So when they find this, apparently, I did not know this, there's a special bag that you can put a cell phone into when you find it that prevents it from connecting with any towers, or it prevents any extraneous information from being added to the phone or deleted. They didn't use that. They just picked it up, and yeah. So, yeah. Then we hear from a Verizon expert who gets on the stand and talks about the call logs of Maggie and Paul. And it was very, very confusing because they were using the last 4 digits of the phone numbers, and not the people's names. And they were having to convert UTC time to Eastern Standard Time. So even the defense on cross was like super confused. I'm sure the jury was too. But then we get the cell phone expert, the guy that extracted the phone, Britt Dove. He comes on to testify, and he spent a great deal of time educating the jury on cell phone extraction, how it's done, that whole thing. Then they talk about what was extracted on Maggie's cell phone, which I had not heard this yet. So Maggie's cell phone actually took 59 steps after 8:53 p.m. before locking, or it locked at 8:53. 59 steps. I don't know what that means. Then, okay, here we go. Here's the timeline. At 9:04 p.m., Alex, oh no, let's start down here. 8:31 p.m., John Marvin sends a text. John Marvin is Alex's brother. He's a lawyer as well. He sends a text, like a group text to the family saying, I'm going to go visit Dad tomorrow. Alex and John's dad was very, very ill in the hospital and actually died 3 days after these murders. He passes away. So at 8:31, John texts the family and says, I'm going to go visit Dad. Anybody want to come with me? That's at 8:31 and 0 seconds. At 8:31 and 16 seconds, that message is read by someone on Maggie's phone. At 8:49 and 27 seconds, Alex's sister sends a text out responding to John Marvin's text. And that is read at 8:50 p.m. And then the phone goes dark forever. Then, okay, so then it's after the phone goes dark at 8:53 that we get those 59 steps. Then at 9:04, Alex calls Maggie's phone, doesn't get an answer. It's not answered. At 9:06, Alex calls Maggie again, does not get an answer. And then I'm messing up. I'm thinking about what I'm doing here. Yeah, Alex calls Maggie again, doesn't get an answer. And simultaneous to that call at 9:06:20, someone turns at Maggie's phone from landscape to portrait at the same time that Alex is calling that phone. And then there's another call about 30 seconds later from Alex to Maggie. Everything's going unanswered. At 9:08:58, Alex texts Maggie that he's going to check on his mom and he'll be right back. And then at 9:45 and 32 seconds, Alex again calls Maggie. No answer. At 9:47 and 23 seconds, Alex texts Maggie, call me back. This is not read. At 10:03 and 58 seconds, Alex calls again. This is his last phone call to Maggie that goes unanswered. Super, super interesting. Earlier that evening at 7:50 p.m., and this is how I had heard the timeline went. At 7:50 p.m., she gets a call from a woman named Barbara, and they talk for 2 minutes and 46 seconds. Now, my understanding is this the woman that she she told, and Barbara will probably take the stand and testify to this, that Maggie said, oh, Alex has asked me to come out for dinner. I wonder what he's up to now. Because it's going to come out that Maggie was not living at Moselle. She was living at the beach property. Yeah, she was not living with Alex. Things were not wonderful, as Alex had said. So, okay. Then we have John Bedingfeld, who took the stand yesterday. He is actually somehow, his grandmother is related to Alex Murdaugh's grandma. Everybody's related to somebody in this town, I think. Yeah. So he is the one that sold Alex the two 300 blackout rifles on December 23rd of 2016 for the low price of $9,188. Holy crap. And Alex was all excited because this was a gift for his kids, his boys. Merry Christmas. You get a rifle and you get a rifle. An assault rifle. And they were both outfitted with thermal scopes so the boys could hunt at night. Oh, that's nice and safe. I'm sorry. I hate guns. I'm sorry. And silencers are put on, suppressors to cut down the noise. Who spends $4,500 on rifles, assault rifles for their sons? Oh my God, $9,188. So Alex comes back to Mr. Bedingfeld in April of 2018 and buys a third blackout rifle for $875 for Paul. And this time he says, no, don't put the thermal scope on there because I don't trust Paul not to lose this thing. Apparently he lost the one he got for Christmas in 2016. So out of the 300 blackout rifles, the police only have the one that Alex was in possession of the night of the murders that was leaning up against his truck and was turned over to South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. Paul lost one, and then one is missing. One is missing. Now, this guy had an interesting thing to say. And I'm including this because there's been this reference about hunting for hogs. And I'm thinking, why? Is this a sport? Why are you doing this? So apparently hogs are a real nuisance in South Carolina. Did not know this. And they do tremendous damage to property and crops. Who knew? So, do you eat the hogs though? I guess. I don't know. You know, for me, meat comes from the grocery store. I do. I'm terrible. I'm so naive. Yes. Just, you know, when you're talking about meat, let's just go to the meat department, right? And pick out beef or chicken or fish. I don't fish either. My nose itches somebody talking about me, right? Yeah. Or I'm coming into money. Okay. So that's what happened in the Alex Murdaugh case yesterday. So today should be interesting. The guy that what was his name? Britt Dove, the cell phone expert, he's going to be back on the stand this morning. And I assume that we're going to hear all about Paul's phone and Alex's phone, what he extracted off of those two phones. That should be very, very interesting for tomorrow's show. So don't forget, stay tuned sometime today. I will be going live when we have a verdict in the Mark Jensen case, assuming they reach a verdict today. Assuming. If they don't, could be tomorrow. But I think it's pretty clear the judge is probably going to be sending them home 5 o'clock-ish, you know, because he doesn't want them going home in the dark. They're not sequestered or anything like that. And meanwhile, you know, they've got 4 alternates that are in a different room just in case something happens to one of the jurors that's deliberating, because you never know what could happen. You know, one could get sick and you never know. Or maybe have a sick child, or, you know, what things happen. What else? Oh. Let's look at the crime calendar, shall we? So Monday I was talking about the Miranda rights. Remember, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you can't say can and will be used against you in the court of law or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to talk about the case behind the Miranda rights. Yes, let's talk about that. Let me get, all right. Because I didn't talk about this yesterday. So we're going to do part 1 and part 2. Yeah, all right. Let's talk about that case. I studied this in law school, in criminal law. Ernesto Arturo Miranda was arrested in March 1963 for kidnapping, beating, and raping an 18-year-old woman in Arizona. After Miranda participated in a lineup of suspects, police implied that he was positively identified. After 2 hours of questioning, Miranda confessed. He proceeded to write down his confession on paper that had the following printed on top of each sheet. This statement has been made voluntarily and of my own free will, with no threats, coercion, or promises of immunity, and with full knowledge of my legal rights, understanding any statement I make can and will be used against me. However, Miranda was not informed of his right to speak to an attorney or remain silent. They forgot some things in their little disclaimer. Based largely on his confession, Miranda was convicted of rape and kidnapping and sentenced to 20 to 30 years in prison. His appeal was taken by lawyers from the ACLU who argued the case along with 3 similar cases in front of the Supreme Court in early 1966. The court ruled in favor of Miranda and his conviction was vacated. Oops. Now part 2, if I can get to the paper. You ever have a paper cut on your hand? Gosh, my nose itches. Paper cut on your hand because the weather. I touched a bowl that was in the freezer, and my thumb just split open. Yeah, from the cold. Weird. Okay, in early 1967, Miranda was retried for the kidnapping and rape. Now wait a minute. When did this happen originally? 1963. It was overturned in 66. In 67, he's retried. Okay. His confession was not admitted into evidence, but he was convicted again based on testimony given by his common-law wife, who said he had confessed the crime to her when she visited him in prison. He was again sentenced to 20 to 30 years in prison, but he was paroled in 1972. Upon his release, he made some cash selling autographed Miranda warning cards for $1.50 a pop. Miranda had some run-ins with the law after he was paroled, including several driving infractions. He spent a year in prison after being arrested for gun possession, a violation of his parole. He was paroled again in 1975, and on January 31st, he was fatally stabbed in a Phoenix bar fight. A fine gentleman. Yeah. Well, interesting. Okay. That's the show for today. I will be live tonight on Craft With Me Wednesday. I don't think I had a show last week. Yeah, because I was live all day doing something. I don't remember what was happening a week ago. Oh, it was the opening statements of the Alex Murdaugh case. Okay. So I will be live tonight at 6:30 p.m. I'm going to be crocheting. Yeah. So if you want to just come by, chit chat, let me know what you think about the trials, or just talk, come join me. It's only an hour, and we usually have a good time. See you then. Bye, everybody.